The world. Today, I will be talking about my reason for quitting the profession of teaching. Um, my name is Brother Cody from Brothers Blue, and I want to talk about what I'm doing currently and the kind of what I've changed into doing or transitioned into doing. But first, I want to talk about teaching and why I left teaching and kind of my thoughts on like the state of education in America right now. Um, so I could kind of start with that, and that was kind of why I started teaching is because my mom has been in education for 2 decades, and my brother's a teacher. I have a sister-in-law who's a teacher and another brother-in-law who's a teacher. So I have a bunch of teachers at my family, and so it's not something that's been completely out of the realm of something that I might be doing at some point in my professional career. Um, with that being said, I kind of know the ins and outs of education prior to getting into it as a profession. So that was kind of nice having a little bit of a leg up and knowing specifically what I wanted to get into education for, which was to try to make an impact on my local community, which I believe I did in the short period of time that I was teaching, actually. And I think that's proof in the pudding because I have kids from the school that I used to teach at. They're commenting on my TikTok videos, asking me to come back to East as a sub or things like that. So I definitely miss the kids. That's one of the things that I miss about teaching. But let's get into why I quit teaching, and that would partially be because of kids' behavior. And the reason that was a big thing for me is because I actually have a 14-year-old, and so I know how a kid should behave and act in school, and that's just not what I was receiving from the majority of the students that I had in my classroom. Do I blame the kids? Absolutely not. I think this is learned behavior, and I think that honestly, this generation of parents is at fault for what we're seeing in the schools right now. Um, and that is me being detrimental of my own generation and the people that I call my peers because I don't know what it is about them and their parenting styles that makes their kids think that they can go into schools and act the way they do because I know that my son does not do that. With that being said, it is the children's behavior that is a big cause for me leaving teaching. But again, I don't think that's the children's fault. I think it's their parents' fault. Um, Another reason that I'm leaving teaching, and this is, I think, one of the things that is widespread across the United States as partially being responsible for the massive teacher exodus that we're seeing. So, in case you're not aware, there is a teacher shortage, or whatever you want to say, that's actually more real than what's called the labor shortage. And we could get into that. And I actually want to talk to Brother Kyle about the gig economy and stuff like that in a different video. So we probably will get into that. But, anyways, I think one of the widespread things that's happening in teaching across America is a lack of support. And what I mean by that is for the last several years that I was teaching, my principal was not just my principal, but was also a classroom teacher at the same time. So one year they were responsible for teaching seventh grade English. And then another year they were responsible for teaching fifth and sixth grade math. And when a principal is relegated to a classroom teacher's duties, they are spread too thin to provide the support that is needed by regular classroom teachers like myself, especially new classroom teachers like myself. So, with all of that being said, it was a lack of support that I was feeling at no fault of my principals, because this is something I've also always felt is that she was a very, very strong principal. The woman I was working for couldn't have done a better job. They were just asking her to do too much, and it wasn't fair. And that trickles down to the teachers not having the support that they need. And then finally, it's the age-old story of pay. And so teacher pay in Pennsylvania is actually better than a lot of states. And so I wasn't like living in poverty or anything like that, but I don't I wasn't being paid in a way that was commensurate with the amount of work that I was doing. And so I would generally do a 7 to 4 day. And that was me being there earlier than I had to be, and staying to the normal time. But I was definitely putting in more than a 40-hour work week. And with that being said, the compensation was not enough for the amount of time, effort, and yeah, everything that I was giving to the job. So, with that being said, I want to shift gears and talk about my new job because I'm really excited. And this is actually my fourth career change. I didn't think I was going to quit teaching. I thought teaching was going to be my last career, because generally speaking, people in America go through three different careers in their lifetime. This is kind of a weird statistic that I'm aware of. Um, but those career transitions, I think, have been what is helping me in this current one because I've done it before. And so I know how to kind of navigate my way through it. And real quick, the beginning of my professional experience actually relates back to what I have transitioned into doing now, and that is working in the service industry. And so, for the first 10 years of my professional career, I was working in the service industry on the front of house. I was a server, bartender, and a dining room manager at the Cake Steakhouse in Denver. It was a awesome job. I loved what I was doing. And I was young, and it paid a decent amount for the time and what I was doing. So that was a cool job. After working in restaurants for about 10 years, I transitioned to working for Wells Fargo, where I was a banker for 5 years. I got my licenses, my Series 6, 63, and 65. Um, and so I was able to do like securities conversations and things like that. And even in that role, I convinced myself that I was helping people, because that's a big part of what I like to do and where I find fulfillment from my careers and from what I do every day, is trying to help someone or help people in general. Um, After banking, I went into teaching, and I taught for about 3 years. And I had a strong passion for it when I first started, and I was really enjoying myself. I had a great first 2 years. It was my third year that really challenged me, and caused my exodus from the career of teaching. Um, and so now what I'm doing is I am trying to become a chef. And so, as I said previously, I have a ton of service industry experience, but it's all front of house. I don't have any back of house experience. And in July, I actually got hired by a company called the Chadwick, and they have a restaurant that's also called Frescoes. But the Chadwick is the banquet slash event kind of center. We do probably over 200 weddings per year. We have dozens and dozens of sports banquets every year as well. So it's very, very, very large scale dining. And it is something that I'm not um, entirely exposed to. It's something that's new to me, and I really have been enjoying it because, again, I get to help people every day. And by feeding people, that's like the ultimate way of helping people. And you know, there's a reason this from the bear. There's a reason that hospitals and restaurants use the same word, hospitality, because we're just trying to take care of people. Um, and so that kind of harkens into what I feel is a good reason for me transitioning into this career is the passion that I have for food is something that can't be taught. So I actually have been given the freedom and the autonomy to create our feature menu item for this week. And I'm going to be doing truffle cheddar grits with honey almond or honey garlic shrimp. And so we're going to be doing a very, very fancy version of shrimp and grits, but it's going to be hot honey with cheddar grits. And I say all this to hearken to the point that I'm very passionate about food, and these types of things I can get excited about. And bringing my work home with me is something that I enjoy doing as a chef. Um, the other reason, and I would be lying if I said this wasn't true, but another reason why I have chosen to get into this career field is because of what's happened to this career over the past 10 years since I left the service industry. And with social media, the Food Network, and all the different streaming platforms, I just think that being a chef has become a lot more glamorized. With that being said, I have been doing a lot of grunt work at my job, and but that's the way it is, and that's the way you should look at this. Is there is a lot of fun things that you do see, like the social media chefs and the Food Network people, what they do and what they put on TV. Some of it is real, some of it's put on TV for a reason, and it's not real. Um, but with that being said, the glamorization of being a chef has definitely gone up over the last 10 years. And it makes me feel pretty good about going into it as a career field. And then finally, uh, I've actually been forced to partake in the gig economy as well due to my career change. And that's because these kinds of places have busier seasons and not so busy seasons. Um, and so when it's not so busy, I've been able to take advantage of some temp work through this app that I use on my phone. But anyways, I've been able to do some knife for hire positions, and I've actually excelled in these as well. So much so that like the executive chefs of the David Lawrence Convention Center is talking to my executive chef at the Chadwick about me working for them on a temporary basis, and how they, it's hard to find good help and things like that, and they appreciate my work ethic and my attitude and this, that, and the other. So being forced to partake in the gig economy is kind of in my opinion, it's one of the bad things about what's happening in our economy overall. A lot of people think the gig economy is a good thing, but like Uber and Lyft taking over the taxi industry is not the best thing. And then like DoorDash is essentially just asking people to put mileage and wear on their car for them to make a marginal amount of money. So these types of things in the gig economy, I feel like, are not very positive, but at the same time, it is what people have to do to make ends meet nowadays. So I understand. And that's what I've been doing as well. And that's where I would encourage these people to look into the different things in the gig economy that don't require such wear on your vehicle, to be honest with you. DoorDash, Uber, Lyft, all these things. So with that being said, look into the gig economy for better shifts. I quit teaching because the kids are terrible, but at the same time, it's not their fault, it's their parents' fault. And I'm getting into becoming a chef, and it's very hard work, but it's been very rewarding, and I have zero regrets about this. So, with that being said, remember, people, knowledge is power.